Hi guys, it's Steve Bate from the Great British Cycling Team answering your questions you've sent in this week, so thank you for those. We'll kick off with Colin Daly, who asks, how do I increase my speed on the bike? I have cleats, but I'm still learning how to use them. Colin, I think just riding more, you'll increase your speed. I don't think you have to do anything particular. Just ride your bike more, which is difficult at this time, I know, but I think the speed will come with time, I think, is my advice for that one, mate. Second up is Claire Blackburn. How do you find the motivation to train indoors, either on the turbo or the rollers? Claire, for me, I think I have to have a goal. That's really important. At the moment, my goal is seeing how crazy I can be on the turbo, so how long I can spend on the turbo. So I've just completed a virtual Lands End to John O'Groats, which was 100 miles a day for 10 days. I've just ridden 200k on the turbo. So yeah, it's just mixing it up and kind of having fun. If I know that doesn't sound like fun, but yeah, it's kind of setting yourself a goal and trying to achieve that. And I think if you have that, then that takes care of the kind of mental side of thinking of sitting on a turbo for a long time and riding. If you've got a goal to achieve, it kind of gives it a purpose, which is key. So Joel Reinhardt asks, how long do you train for a day and at what level? Joel, that really depends on what kind of phase of training we are in. So over winter, obviously it's kind of, I guess, classic big miles on the road. And as we get closer to races, that kind of changes to intensity on the turbo for me, really. So it kind of depends on the phase of training, but that can be a general week can be anywhere between 20 to kind of 30 hours. And that can be a mix of, like I say, volume training or short intensive interval stuff. So it really just depends on what phase of training we're in. It does differ. Terry says, was winning your Paralympic gold medals the best feeling you've ever had in sport? And how would you describe your feelings when you won? I don't think, this shocks a lot of people, I don't think winning the gold medal in Rio was the highlight actually of my games. Adam and I, in the qualifying ride for the Pursuit in our first race, broke the world record. And to me, that was always the biggest thing that I think I've achieved in sport. The reason being is anyone can turn up, and have a bad day on the bike and still win a gold medal, which sounds stupid, but it's kind of what happened to us in the time trial. We didn't ride particularly well, and we still won. So we were the best that day. Whereas I think when you break a world record, you're really raising the bar and you're moving the standard of your sport forward, which I think is always the most important thing to try and achieve in sport. You want to push that on and leave the sport in a better place than when you started. So I think that's, to be fair, that was really the key. And to answer how did you feel, it's a very retrospective thing. At the time, it all happens very quickly. So we had 3 races to do in Rio, and we won a gold medal in our first event, the Pursuit on the track, on day 1. But as soon as you get through that, as soon as that race is finished, you'll automatically think about the time trial in 5 days' time and getting prepared for that. So it was very surreal, to be honest. And even now, it's, thinking back about it, it all happens so quick. And yeah, it's just it's really surreal to think, yeah, you've actually achieved that, because at the time it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's just it's really hard to put into words, if I'm honest. So Jonathan Heinard says, elite level cycling is obviously very hard work, but how do you find the time to actually enjoy your cycling? Yeah, it is hard work, but you have to love what you do. I think if you don't enjoy riding your bike, you're certainly going to struggle to make it an elite level. But for me, I mix up what I ride. So I spend a lot of time on my gravel bike and a lot of time on my fat bike. So I ride off road a bit. and just generally mix it up. But when I'm not in training, I'm probably out on my bike anyway, having adventures. So I think the variation for me is the key, really. Nikki, how much training do visually impaired athletes? Sorry, I'll start again there. How much training do visually impaired riders get to do on their own? That is a brilliant question, Nikki, and that really depends on the level of visual impairment. So for me, I can still ride on my own if I'm very careful. I have to, I can't really ride through cities and in towns, but I live out in the countryside, so that makes it easier, which is why part of the reason why I live where I live. But yeah, it really depends. We've got people on the squad who are completely blind, who spend all of their time on the turbo or the tandem. And we've got some riders who ride a little bit on the road, but generally not a lot, where most of the training I do is kind of on my own. And that I choose to do that. Like, I don't go out on group rides because that's too dangerous for me. I prefer to ride on my own. Like, I'd love to ride in a group, but it's just really too dangerous. So even when I'm training with the team, if I am on my solo, I generally sit off the back about 20 or 30 meters off the back of the group, so I can kind of observe what's going on with them, and nothing happens too quickly for me. Whereas if I'm riding in a tight group, because I've got no peripheral vision, I can't see what's happening around me, so it becomes really stressful. So it's just easier to avoid that situation and hopefully not take out one of my teammates. So yeah, it kind of varies through rider to rider. Graham asks, with the Paralympics being put back a year, what are your targets between now and Tokyo 2021? Very good question, Graham. Yeah, obviously it was pretty gutting to have the games put back, but for all the right reasons. I think we all athletes agree it was the right decision, and it was great that we got told kind of a month earlier than expected, so we weren't hanging in limbo. And I think my target is to come out of this period of lockdown and still in the same shape I am now going into it. We're obviously 6 or 7 months away from the games, so we're all pretty fit and going pretty well at the moment. So it's just to kind of maintain and try not to get too caught up in improving at the moment, because we still don't know how long this lockdown's gonna continue for. So it's just a case of, I think, going into a bit of a maintaining phase and hoping when I come out the other side of this, it'll I'll be in great nick and ready to push on again. But I think the key is coming out of this block really refreshed and really willing to get back on and press on and really prepare for the games. Peter Joyce asks, when training for endurance events, in this case 200 miles in a day, what would you recommend as the best food to build stamina? I am not a nutritionist, Peter, so I'm sure our nutritional staff could probably give you better advice on that. I think to build stamina, it's not so much about your food, it's more about the time spent on your bike. So you'd want to be building up your miles and slowly working your way towards doing that great 200 miler, which sounds incredible. But food wise for me, I generally try and eat real food, and I always go down the route of rice cakes and kind of oat balls and things like that, and a bit of savory stuff in there as well, just to keep a mix. So I think if you're riding for 200 miles, A, you want to make sure you keep eating, and B, have a variety of things to choose from, because that's I think that's really important, because you don't want to get sick of one thing and stop eating, because that will be a big mistake. So yeah, but maybe the nutritional guys can advise on that a bit better than I can, mate. James says, how do you stay focused and motivated when your goal of the Paralympic Games has been moved back? James, I'm still trying to work that one out, mate. Yeah, for me, I think it's putting short-term goals in place. I'm a very goal-orientated person, so for me, starting to put small things in place, and part of that was, I think, my virtual Land's End to John O'Groats ride I did on the turbo. which was at riding 100 miles a day for 10 days. I ticked that off, and then I moved on to riding 200k in a day on the turbo. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing at the moment is turbo based, because I really am trying to stay inside and follow the government guidelines. And it's hard to do because, you know, the roads are really traffic free at the moment, and there's, you know, and the weather's good, so there's a real incentive to get outside. But I'm trying to do my small bit by riding the turbo, staying inside, and hopefully saving lives. So yeah, putting small things in place, small goals in place in the meantime, I think is the key to that, mate. And I think whatever they are, you know, whatever they are to suit you would, you know, hey, jump on, try and ride a virtual Land's End to John O'Groats. It's good fun, kind of. What else have we got here? Andrew Toombs, in the current circumstances, with only solo rides available, I'm not training to the same level I usually do, and the pounds are starting to creep back on. Where do you find the motivation? Well, Andrew, it's funny, I saw a message from Cav on social media saying that the only issue he was having with social distancing was from his fridge. So I don't think you're the only one in that boat, Andrew. But yeah, I think setting yourself some goals and finding a purpose to get back on and train for. You know, I think Zwift is a great platform for that. There's lots of things to challenge yourself on Zwift. So yeah, jump on there, mate, and you know, join some group rides. I know British Cycling have got a road race series on a Tuesday and a time trial series on a Thursday. So they're great events. You know, you can go out and just try and increase your personal best. You know, if it's not about winning those things particularly, maybe, but just about trying to increase your performance each week might help you. Abby, how do you rank your cycling achievements, and what are you most proud of? Ooh. I think, like I said earlier, the world record is probably up there and very closely followed by a couple of gold medals at the Games. Being a world champion is obviously a massive thing for a cyclist, and wearing that rainbow jersey. So that was a bit of a proud moment. But there's other things outside of elite competition that I'm really proud of. And riding the Second City Divide with teammate John Gilday and introducing him to bike packing, or kind of like fast bike packing, is you know, I'm really proud of that. And just generally trying to help people get into cycling and into the outdoors. I think it's really important as a nation that we're not solely focused on, you know, riding a 250 meter track. And, you know, we've got a great country, and, you know, Scotland's probably my favorite country in the world to go bikepacking in. So I think getting people outside and on bikes is the key. And I'm super proud to be a part of trying to push that initiative, really, through my own stupidity and exploits on a bike. So yeah, you know, don't get me wrong, being an Paralympic champion is great, but, you know, having messages from people saying, hey, I've just seen what you did there and I want to go and do this bike packing route or whatever, what do you think, is really just as fulfilling. So yeah, good question. We have Mark Ange, I think it is, Ange. Sorry if I got your name wrong, Mark. What Strictures do you do before and after a ride? Also, what kind of Strictures do you do on a rest day? Mark, I'm not good at this. Mark. And I should be, because I'm 42 and I should be much better with my body. I think I'm no expert in this. I think our support staff, and certainly my physio, Katie Flatters, the team physio, would probably get on my case a bit about this. But I would say any stretching is good stretching. How about that for an answer? Yeah, I'm sure you can find lots of stuff online. There's BC have put up lots of stuff in the past, I think, on their social media about, you know, pre-race warm-ups and things like that. So delve in and do a bit of research, and I'm sure you'll find a better answer than what I can give you sitting here in my kitchen. Catherine says, what draws you to big endurance rides, and equally some of the lesser known disciplines such as fat bikes and gravel riding? I came into cycling from a more adventurous background, Catherine. So I came into cycling through kind of rock climbing and things like that was what I was doing beforehand, and surfing and things. So I've always had a passion for having an adventure. And I think what I discovered when I started riding a bike was you can travel really far and have amazing adventures. And with the kind of progression of bike packing and bike packing bags and travel equipment, you can travel light, you can travel far and fast. Then I started to be really interested in what I could physically do, and where my breaking point was for riding. So I think the thing that attracts me about that sort of thing is just the places you can get to on a gravel bike and certainly a fat bike, and the conditions you can ride in, and the journeys and adventures you can have. I think is really what inspires me to jump on my gravel bike, put a bivvy bag in and just go and ride as far as I can in a day or through a day or whatever, and just explore. And I love point-to-point riding, so A to B riding. Because for my job I ride around in circles a lot, and I don't just mean on the velodrome, but training out, leaving your house and coming back to your house. So for me, going point to point, A to B, B to C, C to D, like that sort of thing, is almost like a Tour de France type ride, is perfect for me. Like, I really find lots of inspiration in that, and seeing new things every day, and generally just finding my breaking point, really, which is always which is an ongoing thing. Every time I do one of these big rides, the Second City Divide was a classic example, where I rode through the night and had a shift of 36 hours on the bike, and I'd never done that before. And I thought that would kill me, and it didn't. So yeah, there's it's just the adventure side of things, I think, and really enjoying having those adventures. So yeah, thanks for the question. And everyone should own a fat bike, because fat bikes are the most fun I've ever had on two wheels. So if you don't have a fat bike, get yourself a fat bike. You won't regret it. We've got a message from John Lenton here. Why did you choose cycling? What attracted you to it as a Paralympic sport? And what was your motivation for getting involved in paracycling talent identification? Good question, John. My attraction to it was, I always wanted to know as a youngster growing up, if I had all the support around me, could I be the best in the world at something? And I mean all the support around me, I mean, the physios, nutritionists, and the amazing support network we have at British Cycling. If I had all of that around me and I committed 100% to a target, could I be the best in the world at it? And it didn't matter what sport it was. I just wanted to know if I could be the best in the world at something if I put my mind to it. And as it happened, cycling came up. Once I had my eye diagnosis, a friend, Karen Dark, said, you can ride on the back of a tandem and race for Great Britain. So that's kind of how I went down the cycling route. And it's worked out, it's worked out really well for me. But, I think I wasn't a cyclist and thinking I'm going to be a Paralympic cyclist. It was more a case of, it was looking at the opportunities I had after losing my driver's license and losing my sight that kind of, led me to jumping on the back of a tandem with Adam Duggleby and answering a few of those kind of childhood questions, which was pretty cool. And then John's also asked, there's a theme building here, John. What advice would you give to anyone thinking of applying for paracycling talent identification? Sorry, I'll start that message again. John asks, what advice would you give to anyone thinking of applying for paracycling talent identification activities? I would say get involved. You can track down if you go onto the British Cycling website, you should be able to find the talent ID process. I know British Cycling run talent ID days all over the country throughout the year, and certainly I would think in the next year they'll be starting to look for talent for Paris. So that will be an ongoing process. So yeah, get on the BC website, and if not, track down John Lenton online. He's got a Twitter handle I think it is John P. Lenton, I think, on Twitter, and he will actually be able to answer your questions because John is our pathway development manager. So it'll be him that you'll be talking to, and he'll be able to help you out. So that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for sending them in. I hope they've been interesting for you. And I just want to say, stay safe, keep well, and all the best during this crazy time. Take care, guys. Thanks.